and I look at the 49ers, and I counted this up. The every year, and we used to do this exercise with the Cardinals. We would sit in a room and we would look at our 53-man roster, and then we would have an arrow for that player. And that arrow was pointing down if he was an obvious decline, pointing kind of sort of down if he was in sort of decline, pointing just straight across if he was just, we didn't feel like he was declining nor getting better.
Peak.
Slight up if he was getting slightly better.
Mm-hmm.
And then straight up if the guy was undoubtedly getting better.
Yeah.
And so obviously anybody knows that you want a roster that's, if you got 53 guys on the roster, in an ideal world, you want 53 guys who are this or this, right? You don't want anybody who's in decline. And you don't want anybody in sharp decline. I look at this Niner roster, and I'm looking at no less than 15 guys that the arrow is literally pointing straight up. They're getting better. Here they are on defense. Kalia Davis, Drake Jackson, Demo Lenore, Marcelino McCrary-Ball, Samuel Womack, Quantrez Knight. I think the arrow is pointing up on all 6 of those defensive players. I think they're all guaranteed to be better than what they were this year. Now let's flip it over to the offensive side. And this is where I think there's as many as 9 or 10 guys. Jordan Mason, Ty Davis Price, Brock Purdy, Nick Zakel, Jason Poe, Tay Martin, Danny Gray, Trey Lance, Spencer Burford, Aaron Banks. I could probably throw Brendel in there as well because he only played for the first time last year, but he's a little older, so I won't have it straight up. I'll have it a little bit more like that. But that's 16 guys. That's a lot of talent where the arrow is pointing straight up, where there's just no doubt Trey's better. There's just no doubt that Danny Gray's better. I guess you could argue with Brock based on the injury, but overall, if the injury checks out, the arrow's pointing straight up. Jordan Mason, straight up. Burford, Banks, straight up. That's a lot of players that are getting better. So I really believe that when you factor in where the NFC is, you got Philly, you may have Detroit, Seattle, maybe if there's another team in there that you like. Some people like Atlanta. I've heard people say the Rams. Fill in the blank on your other team. But to me, it's Philly is your one. Maybe Detroit looks like, and I can't believe I'm even saying that, but Detroit is, I agree with Jesse. He says that, they're kind of an ascending team. But that's it. And now you look at the 49ers. Now they got big quarterback decisions. We don't know if Trey is going to develop. We don't know if Brock's going to be healthy. We don't know that it's all going to work out. They may not have a quarterback, and that would derail this whole conversation. Yeah. But that aside, let's move that aside and put that in its own category. That's a boatload of guys who are getting nothing but better. And I just really think that this last year's draft class, including the undrafted guys, as I named a bunch of them there, the Tay Martins, the Poes, the Zakels, I believe in those guys. Marcelino, I really believe in Marcelino. That's a lot of guys getting better. And to me, when they show up in camp, I think we're all going to sit there. And we don't even know who they're going to draft and how they're going to round out free agency. But I think we're going to see them in camp and go, wow, this team is way, way better. Why? Because they've got 16 guys who are going to be better. And that's a ton. So as far as I'm concerned, I know I agree with you. The window is a lot of times tied to your quarterback. I kind of believe in the future of Trey, and I believe in the present of Brock if he's healthy, based on what I've seen. So I don't fret about the quarterback as much. I think they've even got Darnold in a good, place mentally, probably because he's desperate to turn his career around. But I just look at those 16 guys and I say, you know what? If they even have a mediocre draft, as long as they can get the quarterback position right, man, this team is going to be a force. Yeah. I mean, definitely as good as they were last year. I think they're going to have a 5-year run here where they're in multiple Super Bowls and are consistent Super Bowl contenders. So I think that window, because of this last draft, is wide open. And I think we saw it. 85 draft, they got Rice. 86 draft, they got depth. What happened? 87, they were awesome. 88, they won it. 89, they won it. They could have won it in 90. You could argue that next five years was the best run in the history of the team.
Mm-hmm.
This last draft was so deep that when it all fleshes out and these guys all fulfill their potential, I think it's going to take a year or two.
Yeah.
I think we're looking at the deepest team in the NFC by far. So that's what I see.
You know, Adam Peters, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, they build things the right way. They're kind of like, when you're talking about windows, they're kind of like Home Depot, right? They're good. They install their own windows, right? And the reason why they do that is because they don't build through free agency. They build through the draft, and they stack these compensatory picks. So my original answer had a lot to do with quarterback, but you take quarterback out of the equation. To me, the 49ers are really smart and really good at continuously building a strong roster year in and year out. And I don't think that's going to change as long as these guys are around. But as long as they can figure out the quarterback position, that's when they're really going to open this window wide open, right? But they're good when it comes, you take quarterback out of the equation, they're really good at building strong rosters. So in that regard, I agree with you.
Kalia Davis is the guy that I really can't wait to see this summer, because I saw him practicing at the end of the year, Ryan, and I was like, look at this guy. Look at him move at 295. And then I'm thinking, my God, wait till they get him out there with Bosa and all these guys. And now you added a guy who's 295 and is maybe the fastest 295 you got on the team. I mean, I'm looking forward to that.